says, perfect. In that case, enough of me looking around for buttons on stream decks. Draft to contend with. Namely Weibo over on the blue side, of course. Just Caming over on the red. Different ban strategies already. It's the AD carry focus. We have started seeing become more prevalent on the red side bans. On the other side, it's a little bit more niche. It's the Rumble, it's the Nautilus, and of course, the Nico away from the likes of Cryan.
I actually don't think the AD carry bans are a red side thing. I think it's versus a light thing for Weibo. And yeah, and actually just what I was saying before you entered the room, YSKM's not playing. One has been subbed in for Invictus Gaming. You're going to have to tell me a lot about that. He's an LDL player. I know that you have a lot of thoughts about his game playing and stuff. We'll talk about it maybe when it comes to the top lane matchup and when that's locked in. They're hovering over the gangplank specifically because it's one on the other side. What do you think of that?
So, One's gangplank is really, really, really good. That's by far his main champion. And when he did come up to the LPL, briefly on a more regular basis, that was one of the champions he looked the best on. He is also, for that record, as he hovers it himself, if he locks it in, the man's a god, but we'll give it a second or two. But he was also things like Aurelia as well, and he is a strong carry player, but he is that little bit more of the gangplank side of it. He's a really good Fiora too, he's a really good Aurelia, so he has that kind of duelist edge to him. But I think compared to YSKM, initially, his champion pool is a little broader, even if perhaps he doesn't have the absolute heights on some of the duelists that YSKM showed. For me, alongside a guy called Lamb, probably the best of the LDL top laners on average across last year.
That is a great thing to know, and we've seen a little bit of one-up in the LPL as well. So you would have seen a little bit on IG while YSKM was competing in the Road to Asian Games for Team Hong Kong. So around last summer, you would have seen a little bit of him. So Lian also been a huge firing force for IG. So him versus Xiao Hao, that'll be a matchup which I'm definitely watching for. Cryan picks up the Ahri. It's a bit of a takeaway from Xiao Hu, who has defaulted back to this in numerous occasions. I wonder if Xiao Hu just goes back towards... I mean, he should be on the Karma. Oh, sorry, yeah, actually, no, with that in mind. Basically, Xiao Hu has been put on Karma an awful lot just because it's a very stable laning phase champion, and it does allow you to just kind of like bully out stuff like the blind pick of the Ahri, which is often, you know, very, very safe in that laning phase. Light and Crisp going very quickly towards the Zyra Khan. Now, Light did get a pentakill in this champion earlier in the split. Worth noting that Light historically is not viewed as a great Zyra, though. He's basically just been sat there saying, well, you know, I'm getting it just because it kills tanks early into the game. It's not necessarily because he's a good Zyra player.
No, I think that's actually fair. Not that he's a bad Zyra player for sure, but as you said, Crisp on something like the Rakan, when sometimes it feels like he in particular has struggled on a particular class of champion. We know we've talked about that multiple times before. Actually, the fact that he has suffered somewhat on things like the melee angle of supports. On the other side, though, very rapid lock-in of the Nidalee. You've now got yourself Ahri and Renekton. Renekton Nidalee, huge combo. Ahri Nidalee, if you hit the charm, makes the Javelin a lot easier to hit.
It's also Lien as well. Lien's Nidalee has been absolutely exceptional. He's brought out a couple of times this year so far. On the whole, he has been an exceptional player of it. And now what this means is that Xiao Hao needs to be very, very careful about his jungle champion pool. You know, the Xin Zhao's going to be taken away. I would imagine Lee Sin is going to be taken away as well, potentially, as another champion which can deal with the Nidalee sometimes in that 1v1. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, what have you got that can survive the Nidalee invading you? Maybe something like the Poppy wouldn't be a bad shout. You can stop a lot of these dash champions on the top side. I think that's probably what I would go towards. So as we go through to the last round of bans as well, Arn and Wink now going to be targeted on the bot side as well. They don't have, well, the problem is now, IG, they've banned out the lane pressure champions that would be very good versus the Zyra and the Rakan. I think stuff like the Varus, the Lucian, the Kalista lanes, they can hold that lane down. They're not going to get the Draven, which both of them have played in the past. Wink used to be an AD carry. Now the question is, what are the lane carries can they kind of ban away? There's going to be the Senna as well, so you're really left with not many aggressive options. You might have to go towards something to wait and scale. That's not great versus the Zyra, but if you're wait and scaling as something like a Smolder, then obviously you feel a lot better about the equation. So the real question is, what do they want to scale up with? Because it feels like a lot of the kill pressure is kind of gone. I don't really think they want to lock in something to fist fight early, given all of the champions off the table, and indeed is that Smolder locked in. Last pick likely now going to be something like, I mean, Nautilus is gone, so it's likely going to be what, Alistair or Braum, or something melee that can stop the Smolder from just being dived over and over.
I think that's fair, and then especially considering you've, with the Nidalee lock-in, in some ways said, yeah, on paper we're playing around topside, so then you just have to kind of ignore this little Smolder on the other side, or your topside's going to get absolutely roasted, and no pun intended. Well, what are you going to do now? You're going to leave the Smolder the scale, you're going to attack him. Well, if you attack the Smolder, then your side lanes are going to end up in a 2v1 versus Nidalee, and that's a very challenging position to end up in. But once again, hovering a few of the one champions, and they lock it in. That's a Quinn.
ZDZ going towards the Quinn. Now, Weibo used to play this champion, but that was when it was with the Shy. Now, Renekton has been a blind pickable top laner for a long time now. But with that comes the territory of, well, Renekton, how do you counter him? Quinn has always been a Renekton counter. You save your Vault for when he tries to E forwards and he just ends up losing all of his mobility. Very, very hard for him to play. There's a couple of schools of thoughts as to whether you go towards Ignite or the Cleanse on the Quinn when you're going towards that top lane matchup with the Renekton. You can cleanse out of the stun and immediately start kiting away. And of course, items have changed an awful lot since that time. Too. Poppy, not a surprise coming from Xiaohao. We said it was likely to be the Lee Sin, the Shinso, the Poppy locked in to the Nidalee. Two of those three banned out. The third one is picked up. So IG, they have a lot of ability to catch people out. If they're out of position, a single stun or an Alistair headbutt can lead into a spear, a charm, and everything else coming through from their team. On the other side, though, it really does feel like Zyra Khan should be winning out in lane bot side. The Quinn should absolutely be running lane and top side. And Karma beats Ahri early as well. It's one of the few champions that does. So winning lanes for Weibo, I think winning kind of pick style. Yeah, the other side of IG.
They've got some nasty combos, that's for sure. But as you said, in terms of priority in lane, at least on paper, it should be Weibo's for the taking. The question then becomes a little bit of where does this Poppy go? Are you going to try and just hover, particularly this Quinn, that if she loses those summoners early, becomes that much harder to play, especially against the Renekton? It's almost a requirement you take Cleanse. I know we've had that conversation before. But on the other side, actually, do you want to play through the Zyra Khan? Do you want to try and just really attack that Smolder? And I think there is a couple decisions to be made there. I mean, you look like you've got a real take on this one.
If you pick a Quinn, you cannot ignore the Quinn. No. Quinn is not a champion unless she has a really big lead, in pro play anyway. I think it's starting to get this a bit different because people are more fast and loose about picking up side waves, which means that Quinn can do that instead and punish you for going towards towers. Now, I do think that playing against the top side of the Renekton, Nidalee, Ahri, though, as you said, is just really dangerous. So, I want to see one good gank to make sure that Renekton and Nidalee don't get an easy double flash kill onto the Quinn, and then make sure that Quinn can just slowly bleed out this lane over time, which you can absolutely do versus Renekton.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think compared to something, say, like the Fiora, which we have sometimes, or the Jace even, where there is sometimes that similarity in thought process of what happens if you attack this champion early. Quinn almost has that to an extra degree. In fact, Xiaohu is up in that lane in the bush to make sure there's a ward in early, to prevent any level 1 ward shenanigans and allow the Quinn to be way more aggressive in shoving up.
This is less about preventing IG in terms, well, it's a weird thing. We actually talked about this on cast the other day in regards to the only times where you'll see like level 1 5 stacks in brushes is when you have range versus melee top laners. So we talked about it on cast a little bit.
Did indeed, yes.
And this is an important part of this, because what'll happen is ZDZ is going to stand in that front brush with Xiao, who's just warded out. He's going to stand there, he's going to level E, and one is going to stand trying to walk into lane, and Quinn will just walk beyond the wave and trade with you without grabbing minion aggro. So one is likely going to lose a lot of XP on the first wave, and I actually really want to see if the camera goes up here. This is what happens when you get Quinn into the first brush. It happens with Vayne, it happens with Lucian. You can drop into the brush again to drop minion aggro, just keep trading over and over. One has walked up with the wave though, so ZDZ, not great from him in terms of his positioning. He needs to just get out of range of the melee of the range minions so he doesn't get as much aggro, and indeed just about manages to do that, but one might be getting more XP than you normally expect at level 1.
I think wisely there, deciding I need to be here with the minion wave, because if I'm back after it, I'm going to get absolutely slaughtered. It still takes a bit of a chunk, and you can see already lost about half the HP bar. ZDZ very pleased with that indeed, and once again walks beyond the minions, keeps one way out of the ability to get access to that wave.
So this is why you end up fighting for wards in that brush closest to the melee laner's tower, because now you can't drop out of minion aggro by dropping into that brush. Level 2, you don't level the Q as you might expect, which is the bursting blind kind of thing, the blinding assault.
Yep.
But you do the W instead, which I believe is heightened senses. That's the one.
Oh no,
Is that the one? I think that's the one. Anyway, you go towards that W because it gives you the extra attack speed and movement speed to keep chasing down for additional autos. Very, very good when you're running press the attack Quinn. By the way, folks, I reached my highest ever rank on Quinn. I spammed this champion a lot back in like season 8 or so. Now ZDZ is getting himself his first kind of like recall of the game into at this point. He's getting a first crash. I think he should be looking for a recall soon to get himself a Kirchi's shard. I think as soon as you get Kirchi's shard, this lane is basically over for one. But I think as long as you can start zoning off one off of CS, you're pretty happy with it. Also worth noting, Renekton's gone for press the attack as well. No point going for Conqueror. It's all about the flash and power W to see if you can burst out the Quinn at some point in the game.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You have to do the damage then and there. Extended fights just aren't going to be a thing. You were absolutely right. It was heightened senses, worth a check. I haven't cast a Quinn in a hot minute for obvious reasons. She is a challenging champion to make work. Is in the mid lane. Xiaohu. It's a spear and is not particularly pleased about the results, down about half HP, and that's kind of what we said.
Is that the new meta in sword eating at the circus? You know, you've got the sword eaters and you've got the spear eaters as well.
Possibly, though. I suspect that might give way to a few innuendos they weren't hoping for.
Yes, but that was the whole point about sword eating anyway. So, right, we're getting a teleport back into lane from one. What's he managing to get with his first back? This is really important. Only get to cloth armor. Once you get towards steel caps, this lane becomes much more easy. Xiaohu going in towards Cryan now. Doesn't really get much done. But yeah, a teleport back to lane just for a cloth armor is not fantastic. ZDZ he's got the fleet footwork, he's got that cleanse. He's likely going towards Shiv to just permanently wave clear and keep permanently pushing Renekton under the turret. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets just a Kirchi's shard first. It's just so annoying. It also then gives you some magic damage in your kit as well from that proc, which means that the cloth armor doesn't do as much.
Yeah, that does feel pretty true. I think that's fairly in. Now going for the back, has got themselves an Aether Wisp. Will be a Lich Bane. Is that Lich Bane build still? I know it is. I always get a little bit confused. Yes, it is. But that's the move speed, more importantly, which of course Nidalee does so enjoy. And we'll be trying to look up towards these Krugs and maybe a gank here on the way past, because EDZ, one of the issues with being so shoved up in all of these lanes, if the Nidalee gets in, you've got a long way to run away to home.
Important things, EDZ just uses W cooldown, that heightened senses. It gives you that burst of vision. Obviously the passive is great in terms of attack speed and movement speed when you proc on the Harrier marks. But he used it right there to show that Leon was not in the tri-brush. He will be in danger for like a little bit longer. He's actually maxing W second for the attack speed. We see this, and also the ability to just like walk away as well. Again, like look how fast he gets when he procs the W. No boots, by the way, no boots just yet. Man. Once you proc that Harrier mark, you're gonna run very, very quickly. It helps you play a little bit more respectfully around someone like the Renekton who tries to keep running you down. Once you have the Shiv up, you don't really need your Q as much for wave clear, which is one of the reasons why you're going for the W over the Q max right now.
Oh, Xiaohu needs to be a little bit wary, but he is towards this bot side, gets hit with the headbutt pulverize after steadfast pressing Bronzab, and now Weibo Gaming begin to turn around and force themselves, forcing a flash to Xiaohu just about fast enough to avoid the charm. On the other side, ZDZ and one trading out, not quite level 6 for one, who does get a big trade here, doesn't have the cleanse force yet to ZDZ, and actually considering still has yet to go back, will take the opportunity at level 6 to try and go home and come back with the behind enemy lines.
So didn't go for a cheater recall earlier into the lane, waits until level 6 so you have the ability to just walk back with Valor instead. So he has himself Kirchi's shard, he has himself longsword and boots. So this is just lane domination now from ZDZ. When we'll be getting a wave crash in though with this wave, so he'll get himself back to steel caps and maybe some longswords as well. So he'll be a lot more happy after this early lane actually.
Yeah, nice trade there to at least force people back when he could. Takes the opportunity to nab a couple honey fruits, who's less in danger. People come to gank him. With the reset coming on through as well and the wave shoved in finally, and we'll take the opportunity to get to the grubs as well. So all things said and done, Quinn feeling happy, but at least one manages to take the opportunity before things get really out of hand to pick up those steel caps.
Yeah, for sure. It's at least you get the Tabi in, which is completely fine. That's a pretty big break point in this league, in this kind of lane. See that Lian is going to get most of these grubs. Is he going to get all of them? No. Now the problem is, now at this point, you've gotten the first couple here, which stops the 4 and the 5, but even if Quinn gets to, the 5 and the 6 rather, even if Quinn gets 3, 4 grubs out of the full total set we're getting between two of them, Quinn is always able to hit tower versus Renekton, pretty much. It's really hard for Renekton to defend turrets easily, especially once you get that Shiv online, so IG need to be very careful even around the second round. of grub spawns. Even without the might buff, Quinn uses that to push towers so effectively. We see that Xiaohao and Chris roaming towards top side.
They don't know. Leon needs to be really afraid. They've just found them, knocked into the wall afterwards. Grand entrance was slightly weirdly timed. And I think as a result, Leon gets out with a flash.
That isn't the grand entrance being weirdly timed. It's Xiaohao knocking Lian out of the grand entrance. Excuse me. That's really, really sad. Chris gets the really good W there. And then his jungler ends up punting him out of it. They just don't combo that up well at all.
As a result, Leon gets out for free. And as a result, Leon does miss the flash, but of course, as in Nidalee, you have got a fair amount of mobility, not the end of the world. Over comes Wink, though, looking for the head, but Pulverize can't quite use the minion to get in range.
Honestly, the more important thing about that topside player is getting some wards down, just so ZDZ is very happy pushing out Pun cooldown. You can see that one is now backing off tri-brushes, because the other side of this is, oh, wait, I don't know if there's going to be Xiaohao in a bush somewhere nearby as well. And though he does have level 6, he doesn't want to have to blow any HP or defensive tools to really secure his laning phase. While all this is happening, bot lane has been left alone in a pure TVT. The Zyrakan is winning out in that so far, but Smolder is still doing okay. Question is really how many of those CS have transferred into stacks. If you're farming under turret, often you're using your W quite a lot. You can't use your Q on cooldown, or rather, you can't just use your Q to kill all of the minions, even if you are using it on cooldown as well. So, needs to be really careful that he is still able to get decent amount of stacks, because he is a huge part of how IG will bail out this early game from losing 3 early lanes.
Yeah, that has been the challenge. They haven't bled out too much yet, though I will say, obviously, that like Quinn, understandably getting a big lead here versus the Renekton. You've talked about Light and Crisp on the Zyrakan nominally being the ones to be able to win that lane versus the Smolder would have done so with pretty solid fashion. They're up 15 CS at 9 minutes. It's a great mark. It's a solid score to be having at 14, which of course is a lot of where the early game stats are tracked these days when plates fall. Though, much out of mana, when takes a slice and a W to come on through, pops the Dominus as well, now roaming down towards the river, but here comes Leon, and ZDZ may be forced to flash, the flash forwards himself, gets over the wall, Javelin toss goes wide, there's the heightened senses, ZDZ vaulting away, Leon goes down the slow, under the tower they go, they can still look to dive this, but it's really dicey, and that's no pun intended, still get the kill, despite running an absolute marathon.
And ZDZ really misplays that too, ends up waiting for the Renekton to go over him, and then he vaults back the other way. Even though he buys space from the Renekton, he has to run through him to get towards his own tower. Gets hit by the spear afterwards, doesn't use the Harrier marks particularly well in regards to kiting out that play, and now your Quinn is down both summoners, has given a kill over to the enemy lane, and one chooses a really good time to get an all-in. So now Weibo are playing with much less of a topside advantage than they were expecting to do so, despite the fact that ZDZ had himself a lot of good vision on top side. Awkward moment, and gives Renekton way more gold than he should have in the early game.
And this is a conversation that has happened every time Quinn has turned up in the top lane, particularly versus the Renekton. It is a winning matchup until you blow the flash and the cleanse, and then Renekton has a lot easier of a time getting on top of your face and really trading hard.
The thing is, you've blown your own flash for it, so if you ever see the Renekton start his E animation, you click E on him and he can never touch you again, so it's very hard for that to happen. Wink now roaming topside though, and the problem is, once you get the Shiv, you can't stop pushing the wave either. Luckily you're not at that point right now. It's a problem with Tristana too, where she levels up the explosive shot and things going to go badly after that point. But what are you doing, ZDZ? You're just putting yourself into a terrible vault position again, positioning poorly, goes down for the effort.
Easy as you like. Wink is there as well, and he comes in with the assist, a second kill for one. Subs in for YSKM, has a little bit of jungle attention despite the early laning woes, and now find themselves with a significant lead, all the while Cryan having to back away in the mid lane as Crisp comes for a gank. You'll see that it was a grub nabbed as well, so that prevents the 5 marked by Weibo Gaming. So at least there's that, but still a pretty ugly moment there for the side of Weibo, and Invictus Gaming beginning to really come online in that top lane with the combo.
Yeah, I think there's just some significant misunderstanding of how to play this. Lining up into the feathers. Xiaohao misses the wall stump but gets the phase rush to run out. You know, I actually just want to... Oh, ZDZ is getting ganked again. He might be able to run down Leon. Needs to be careful with this, but doesn't
a lot of slows.
Yeah, so what you're actually looking for right there's a specific timing you're looking to do. So if you click your E on someone either when you're next to a wall, you'll actually vault over it. Now if you do that with the enemies on the other side of a wall, if they're just far enough away, you can actually vault over the wall and use it to wall cross as well. Now you could have actually in that point gotten over the wall into Lien and potentially chased him down for a kill, but didn't quite get that timing right. ZDZ not quite winning out a lot of these kind of flippy trades onto the Quinn right now. I do think that One has been doing a good job on the other side as well, just to make sure that he's positioning in a way to force the error out of ZDZ.
Yeah, of course. Lien, One, having a good game so far. It is a very iconic Nidalee, and of course One, no stranger to Renekton, but you feel like most professional players of the top lane have put a fair amount of time into Renekton over the years. Over towards bot lane we go as Lien comes down here, throws down a control ward, and will make Light and Crisp a little bit wary. Pull back for now. Xiaohao is in the vicinity. What's they going to do? And this is a Poppy lock-in that's not really managed all that much. No. And reminder, you are into a Nidalee who will at this point begin to really out-farm you. The Pen Boots are in. A lot of those AP components are in as well. Those camps are going to start disappearing mighty fast.
I'm gonna one-up you there as well on that one. It's the Poppy lock-in, which hasn't done much, with 3 winning lanes.
Yeah.
This is how this composition is meant to play, and in regards to just pushing lanes, Poppy making a mess of the enemy jungle, and then also, but then effectively paying back the lanes which have won early to allow them to kind of like take off in the early game. So yeah, it's not really worked out in the early game for them in regards to that. IG are now in a much further ahead than they should have been. They have a Smolder. They're against 3 winning lanes. They should be behind and they're even. That in itself is a victory. So I have to see what Weibo can do to kind of like overcome that. They should be playing with more gold with this composition.
Xiaohu now in a dangerous position as Winx found an angle behind the Karma, can look for the headbutt. Gets the trample, forces a flash, headbutt into the wall. There's the pulverize. And Xiaohu is forced to flash. Will survive the gank, but is now down that additional summoner spell.
So Xiaohu punched a little bit. We see that Lien going back towards his first item. First items for IG, particularly on the top side, so strong for them. Getting towards the Malignant's close on Cryan. Lien already with that Lich Bane. Wink might be forced to pop his ult, and indeed he is. Cryan ulting back as well.
There is Lien and Cryan around. Cryan actually ulted for that one as well, so additional win there. Dragon's not spawning for them, but it is worth noting that Weibo have got the first 2 dragons, so Soul is definitely a possibility for them if they keep stacking up. Of course, only a Chem Soul, so not the greatest soul of all time.
Tis just a tribute.
Yeah, you gotta believe me.
The thing is, it kind of is a tribute
to
one of the greatest souls of all time. The original Chemtech soul, which was absolutely disgustingly broken, effectively gave you Renata W for free with like the huge kind of like the zombie form where if you get that kill you revive. God, that was such a
really
mess.
Busted.
And then you'd have like GA, you'd have Chemtech soul, you'd have like. Yeah, you'd have people running like full revive comps just in the hopes that they'd roll that soul at points.
Remember the map with the fact that once you won so hard because no one could ever face check freely
because wards
didn't work. Anywhere. Wards didn't work.
Regular wards didn't work. Yeah, and that was one of the biggest mistakes I think that Riot have walked back so quickly. And credit for them for doing that, but God, it was so unfun to see for a little while. Spear is going to stop Xiaohu's recall. Can they dive with this? They have Cryan's ult coming up just now. He's teleporting. Wow, flash charm.
He misses the javelin toss though. You knew exactly where he was walking. He gets to tether under the tower. Oh no, it's a 1-for-1, but that one's a bit ugly.
Oh, Lien, buddy, charm makes people not stunned. It makes them walk towards the person who's charmed them. Misses out on the spear. Awkward moment. Xiaohu does go down, but it is a 1-for-1, which they didn't expect. Light almost taking this full outer turret. Would be nice for him to get that one. Chris flies in to save the day. Does get the entire turret here. So Light at least pushing up on the Xayah and forcing on into a kind of defensive motions. Pop that goes. ZDZ now getting run out. With the Stride Breaker on the other side, he does need to be careful.
Cleanse pops just for the Dominus, but that now gets a bit scary for ZDZ as well because we've talked about this before. Being down that cleanse, but the problem now being that Renekton has flash, you don't have cleanse. You might have the flash, but if you ever get flash empowered stunned, or God forbid E empowered stunned, it can be very difficult now for ZDZ to escape the Renekton all-in the next time it happens.
Yeah, and particularly with the Stride Breaker, if you can't face check anymore, you don't have, well, you're maxing your W, so you have much longer, like much less cooldown on it rather, shorter cooldown. Normally it's around about a 30-40 second cooldown.
Yeah.
There were some points in the past, actually, where you could build some more cooldown reduction items like Essence Reaver and stuff like that, where you'd actually get very good W uptime. Not really the case nowadays, but yeah, you can't ever face check, especially now that the potential of the flash comes through as well. This is like, I mean, we're seeing the pro view of Xiaohu, sure, cool, so he dodges out one spear, starts teleporting out, and he's like, oh no. Okay, cool, right, just uses the empowered abilities and then just says, okay, I'll take the 1-for-1. Easy enough for him. That's a freebie.
Yeah, that should never have been so free. And Cryin did everything right, and Leon kind of failed the setup a little bit there. He was set to slam dunk that one, and the layup was pretty good. But here we are. With a little bit of disappointment, ZDZ will zoom down the river. Of course, the ability for them to shove and roam on the Quinn is very strong.
Big thing about Quinn is that extra levels of your ultimate give you so much more move speed. That's one of the big stats you get. Cryin not going to be forced to use his ult. ZDZ flying down. He's not looking for side lane pressure. He's looking to join his team. He needs to be a little bit careful again. He doesn't necessarily have the best stats to fight this out. He's just trying to be annoying right now. But what happens if Wing manages to catch him in a flash combo? Chance of him dying straight up, but still buys his team enough space, particularly with that W, to get onto the dragon first.
That arm now coming on over. The javelin toss just wide. Dragon about to get very low, but not gone down over the wall. Goes Cryin, gets a good charm onto Xiaohao, but the dragon now secured. Smolder's ultimate comes across. Fantastic steadfast presence. Stops one, getting his into the backside of the die. But look at Weibo Gaming's health bars. They're all desperately low. The javelin toss comes along. Cryin lands another charm. One into the backside, forcing Light to flash. But the Dominus still roaring her to life. A slow onto one, and the Vault comes out as well. Flashing away, he does finally go down, but so many summoners blown to stop that Renekton. Xiaohu goes down as Leon pounces forward to claim another. The Super Scorch Breath and the Chew not quite there, but a flash for an extra Q. And they will claim an extra kill. Huge win for Invictus Gaming, even if they lose the Dragon.
And a huge win specifically for Arn on the Smolder, because, you know, he spent most of this laning phase not even able to hit other champions. Now, suddenly being able to get, you know, 4-person Ws, a load of Qs, these kind of fights early, if you can just keep spamming through your abilities, can pick up a lot of the slack of the stacks, which you've missed in the early game. He's well on track now. So this starts with ZDZ positioning aggressively, but they don't have a proper frontline. Xiaohao, as soon as he goes down to this kind of HP, can't really perform that frontline role. And it means that IG can just play really, really effectively around this fight. Just keep running forwards, use the Renekton with that hit one item spike. The Stride Breaker allows you to run people down even more, and against, you know, in Quinn in the individual lane, very effective. Very good against multiple AD carries though, and yes, one goes down, but the fact that it sets up gold to go into Smolder, I would take that trade every time. On also getting an extra kill at the end of this. Extra salt in the wound for Weibo Gaming, because this Smolder will be very hard to deal with later. You don't even outrange the champion this game.
Took 3 champions to disengage one, and there were still 2 flashes blown to try and get away. And then Arn collects the kills anyway. So you got a 2-0-1 Smolder, who was quite a significant margin behind the Xayah, who had been farming up a storm, claimed that turret in the face of the little dragon, and now it's actually looking a lot more playable. Invictus Gaming with the gold lead. Yes, a lot of that is from things like this Nidalee so ahead. Now the Stride Breaker still laying behind. ZDZ's got nowhere to go. I think it's just ZZZ because he's been putting straight to sleep.
No flash this time. Cleanse not enough to get him out to safety, so he doesn't even pop it. This is what happens when you're playing a Quinn from behind without significant vision. You need to be able to put down the enemy HP bar in your lane so much that they can't even think of all in you in a lot of these games. And, you know, Weibo, they've played with Quinn a lot in the past before. The Shy used to play this. By the way, folks, the Shy also used to in on this champion. Maybe a bit of an ode to their previous top laner as well. But this, on an individual level from ZDZ, hasn't really been that great from the Quinn. And you can see that one has punished it. But for me, the mistakes are originating from ZDZ. That's the distinction I want to make. Yes, there is a punishment coming in from Invictus Gaming, but ZDZ is not playing respectfully, not comboing particularly well either.
I don't know whether those stats that came up on screen were from before the dragon fight, but they were saying 57% chance for Weibo to win. I wonder whether that's because Soul Point is a thing, but all the same, that feels a little bit antithetical to what I'm seeing on screen with significant gold lead, Smolder scaling, and a couple items on some very scary champions here.
I look at IG's comp and I say, you know what? I had this amount of gold. I don't think you care about the Chemtech Soul particularly either. Really just feels like, you know, Smolder is getting towards that point where you get towards the 2 items And you can start hyper-scaling towards those stacks. You get so much cooldown reduction. Just with the Shogun now, Arn, who has dropped a lot of stacks in the early game, can start picking them up very nicely now. And it feels like IG are very, very happy to just kind of keep up now and just see whether they can deny ZDZ from getting map pressure in the side lanes, you know, punish him when he oversteps, and stop Weibo from going towards big objectives if they at all can. But, you know, IG, they at this point, if it comes to a 5v5, as we've seen, will shred Weibo.
At the same time, you know, you still are at Soul Point. Soul is certainly nothing to sniff at. Maybe you would have wished for a slightly higher roll, but you are going to have to play with what you've got, and you've got enough tools there to make use of the Chem Soul. And the tenacity, if nothing else, does feel pretty good against a fair amount of CC. All the same, though, you've got to be a bit aware that it's 45 seconds till the Dragon, and this time it's Invictus Gaming. The ones setting up first around this Dragon. They'll be the ones with priority in the river right now.
With that priority, gives a really good chance to deny Weibo early soul, as we've been talking about quite a lot in the last minutes or so. How do you get around this? CDZ pushing towards top side, but I mean, Cryan can wave clear for free. It's one of the better things about Ahri into these split pushes top lane, is that you just instantly clear those waves and they can't get towards turrets. Now Weibo looking for the all-in, but they can't find it.
Still the Flash and Leanne alongside the Ghost on Arn, two potentially important summoners down. Of course, the quickness being down in trade is still a relatively heavy cost, especially because we didn't meet any kills. But no one in the back line has found a wonderful flank angle. Fantastic headbutt pulverized. Smolder's mother comes flying, but the turnaround is huge. And of course, one's not in yet because he couldn't get over the wall as freely as he was hoping. They've lost the cow.
One fails his E into the wall and didn't have flash, so one huge blunder there on the Renekton. Turns out both these top laners having some awkward moments today. And IG lose one for free. That might potentially be Weibo looking towards a play towards the Dragon. And while all this is happening, you know, ZDZ actually does win out in the 1v1 towards top side somehow, some way. Would really expect Ahri to be bursting out that matchup, but still, Weibo maybe getting themselves a free soul off of the blunders of IG.
Oh no, it looked so good. Now one has got flash now. I don't know whether we did at the time.
He didn't have flash.
Oh.
So yes, he failed the E over the wall, but he didn't have flash at that time. He has it now. It's only a few seconds off of cooldown while that happens. Now, going towards the Dragon, proper 5 people all in tow. So Weibo not able to use the numbers advantage.
A huge amount of mana for Leon as well. Of course, your Cougar forms doesn't use mana, so that might help. Dragon secured nonetheless, so despite losing the member, Invictus Gaming still prevent that. But all the while, ZDZ has just been hard shoving top lane. Claims another couple waves, claims a top lane tier 1, and manages to recoup some of the losses that 1 and 4 Quinn has suffered this game.
Now, the thing is, Weibo needs to be careful for Baron stop, but there are no teleports on the other side. Charm coming through, but it's flashed away from. Good angle from Cryan.
And forces that flash again. Shahu very swift to leave there after initially looking for something of a pick.
Can we get ourselves back up onto the... just burst out and then cancel the TP afterwards. That's just a huge mistake from Cryan. That's why I was wondering how Ahri lost that individual matchup. It's just teleporting in front of a 2-item Quinn. The Energized build, very, very good burst coming through, and really good wave clear also from that Shiv. You know, we think of Shiv as a wave clear item, but Shiv Stormrazor very, very good at bursting people out. Cryan really just not respecting that Quinn could stop the teleport.
Of course, did cost ZDZ the cleanse, but it's already half off cooldown, so it'd be a lot worse. But denying the Ahri easy access to that fight was relatively significant. Still, the Dragon Soul was denied. Time ZDZ did, as we said, claim a lot of CS, a lot of turret gold, so definitely helps stabilize what had been a bit of a rough early to mid.
Now, the good thing here is, so I have fond memories of this. When I first got to Diamond 2, it was off of a game where I think I went 1-8 as Quinn versus a Camille, which, not the best matchup ever. But the thing is, you can just be an annoyance the entirety of this game, because no one can stop you in a side lane realistically now, or at least no one can stop you pushing a side lane. Once you hit level 16, that's a huge break point, because you don't waste any mana when you cast your ult. Shao getting burst out. You're not quite at level 16 just yet, though. Once you hit level 16, very, very fast to move across the map because your move speed increases again. It doesn't cost you any mana to go into your behind enemy lines form as well. If you get to that mark and you get 3 items, ZDZ will be permanently pushing in side lanes and very quick to respond. So IG will need to be very quick on their timings about when they look towards plays and when they look towards objectives away from the Quinn as well.
Eyes now towards this mid to game as we've got about 2.5 minutes on the Chem Soul. For Weibo be a second attempt. Of course, last time they didn't really get a chance to contest at all. Baron's up and available, has been 6 or so minutes. also pointing out that, of course, Smolder has hit the break points. 225 stacks been in for a few minutes as well. So IG well and truly online. And for all that we were sort of saying, you know, the gold lead doesn't matter that much, it really doesn't now that the Smolder's there. And they are actually even with the lead themselves. So it's all going well right now from Victor's Gaming.
So, what do Weibo have left in the chamber? There is spotted on the side here, so ZDZ playing respectfully, and again, Quinn is powerful as long as she demands enemy champions time, but doesn't end up losing value herself in terms of dying or dropping waves. So right now, by still collecting the farm, but still kind of buying time for the enemy team, that is a win for ZDZ, because you're not exactly going to have that same value in team fights. You're not going to be a team, you're not going to be a Renekton or a Cassandra that can tank up extra skill shots. You can be an extra carry, but it's harder for you to perform as that, because you're quite low range as well. Needs to be quite close to make the most of it. Worth noting, there are some extra kind of players which ZDZ can make in regards to stopping the Alistar combo. If you're particularly good as well, you can end up getting the Vault to cancel the initial part of the headbutt, which can stop Wink getting a prime angle into these flanks. So Weibo, they've got a bit of an unorthodox team fight. They've got themselves an unorthodox top laner, which changes the way they need to play the game. It's going to make it a little harder for someone like Light to have a front line to play behind. You have level 60 on a ZDZ now. Watch that movement speed absolutely take over the game. How quickly that this Quinn can move between different lanes. It is, you know, you don't have that teleport. The reason you don't have it is because you fly around the map so quickly.
Just picked up a Kraken Slayer as well, so a third item to boot. This Quinn definitely pretty threatening again. Can be pretty scary indeed. There you go, behind enemy lines, comes right back out, and the Bird love doing the best they can to be as difficult as they can in this side lane. Attempted engage,
yeah.
Doesn't go well. Cryer not able to land Charm onto Xiaohao.
And the problem here is for IG is that they're trying to make a play while they see that ZDZ is tied up in this bot side. You have maxed out Harry, you have 3 items, you are absolutely shredding. This energized build is absolutely bullcrap.
Just one blows everything, cannot get far enough away. All the mid-game shenanigans from this Renekton attacking the Quinn suddenly feel a long, long way away.
So once you start proccing Fleet Footwork and Storm Razor, your movement speed is absolutely disgusting, and this is why you pick the Quinn into the Renekton. The early laning phase is good, the late game doesn't get much better for the Renekton, and with that, behind enemy lines now, ZDZ walking back towards the Baron, looking to make it a 5v4.
Charm lands, headbutt comes on through,
Assassination.
Tower very low, looking to the backside, ZDZ onto one, Dragon not quite down, and now ZDZ's in danger, not quite in the execute just now. The Crypt Bloom procs on top of it all, Light flying forwards though, can still be a threat. ZDZ done enough regardless, no he hasn't, because Arn just picks up absolutely everyone.
The hard work was done in the side lane, and then the double carries of ZDZ and Light both fail their assassinations onto Arn, who stands and fires. IG will get away with a one-team fight. They'll get away with a Baron being locked in as well. Fantastic team fight for them. But honestly, I'm looking at ZDZ and Light and wondering, what the hell did you just do with your assassination attempts? Mechanically, they misplayed so hard. They might have lost their team the game off of that one team fight. As we go into this replay, there are a couple of things you need to look at, right? Most of the things are in terms of how does Arn deal with the divers coming onto him. The first bit is, you look at ZDZ coming in, but he uses his Vault, which pulls him into the Ahri, and then also into Lian as well. Melee range of the Nidalee, gets burnt down, terrible angle chosen there. Next, Light is next up to the plate, goes through with his auto attacks, but then pulls back the feathers with nothing behind Arn. Misplays on his feather caller as well. Could have just waited a little longer to pull out that flash. Both 80 carries. Running it down in that fight.
Honestly, tunneling a little hard there on getting the last order to try and blow up that dragon. Instead, they are the ones that go too deep, get punished, give over a load of kills. Now you got a 4-0-2 Smolder, who has just got Baron to their name, and now how's Quinn going to shove into that?
And this one's particularly hard for Weibo, right? They came off of a victory against JDG, and it looked good. Charm lands under turret.
Oh, and alongside Smolder's ultimate. Oh, down for the count. Oh, Lord Almighty. They finally killed him, though. Light gets him this time. Wait. The dragon is down. This means the fight can continue. ZDC, though, on the other side. Now free firing. And Invictus Gaming, they overshot, and Weibo trade back just fine.
Oh, what is this game? Every time I'm like, okay, this team's in the advantage. They're going to be surely winning this next fight. It just doesn't happen. ZDZ cleans up this time after somehow Arn gets caught out in a way which he couldn't have been last time. So the Baron buff going to achieve basically nothing. Weibo gets to go towards enemy turrets. ZDZ gets him his split pusher again, and we went from Weibo throwing a Baron to then throwing him back into their favor from IG. And we are left, probably with Weibo, feeling a lot better after that.
Why do I suddenly feel like I bought tickets to the circus? What is going on in this game?
Yeah, I was thinking very similar. Go back into this replay. Let's look back at this again, because it's a very easy turret take from the side of IG. Goes in with a, charm onto Xiaohao, gets absolutely shredded and punted down through that mid lane. But On walks straight into a Mantra Cube. But waits, goes through both parts of that, and then Light gets to clean up as well. So Xiaohu Light getting the damage done onto him, as the front line doesn't really block out well for that poor dragon. If Smolder is alive, this is such a one-team fight, but I mean, basically, the two fights compared to each other, it's just difference in front line.
Charm just picked up, not Charm, Medjay just picked up from Xiaohu. You can tell I just equate Medjay with Ari in my brain now. You have genuinely corrupted
The plan is working,
me.
the plan is working.
Infinity Edge also picked up for ZDZ, who got to roam so much faster than one into that fight. It became a 4v4 again after the member died because he got to be there.
And this is now the point where ZDZ actually becomes a more traditional AD carry, where if you end up allowing ZDZ a good run at a team fight, you have double AD carries, which is really, really annoying. Level 18, very, very strong in regards to the XP. The problem is you're not going to get any more value from the XP differential from this game. It means that once he levels up once more, you get to kind of get that little advantage for free. But still, Infinity Edge, it's not the Infinity Edge buffs just yet. We're still on 14.5. That comes in on 14.6. Got 4 items now picked up for Light as well. Very powerful in terms of the carries of Weibo. Can they match what Smolder can do? Well, I don't think they can do in a straight 5v5, so it's on Weibo to stop IG from getting a clean 5v5.
It's worth noting, Leon just picked up a death cap as well. This Nidalee will hit like a truck and really, really blow up someone. And we talked about the assassination potential on the likes of ZDZ, but Leon, if he hits a spear onto a key target, most notably either of those AD carries, you can force a lot of very uncomfortable summoner spells being forced to use.
Ooh, we can't quite time the downfall of Steadfast Presence there. I mean, now we have ZDZ roaming from a side lane. What can you do here? I don't really think he's looking to do that much. And Weibo, we can just see how they can pull the map apart again. So much of this game is on teamfight execution now. Can the front lines block out important skill shots from the backline or otherwise peel from them? Can the front backlines themselves get good damage onto the front line in the right kind of space? Dragon coming up in a minute. Looks like we're spoiling for a fight. Recall not stopped.
Light at 4 items. Most importantly, he did pick up the Bloodthirster, which would hopefully help keep him alive in some of these fights and away from that execution threshold courtesy of the Smolder passive. So be a little bit aware of that, but I think that is a sensible build. But it means neither AD carry has anything like a Lord Dominic's regards, and of course, you're only really into the Renekton and the Alistair as the kind of beefy frontlines, but they are kind of big HP stackers.
They are, but I really feel like these crit builds, the extra bonus you get is just the amount of wave clear you get with them, which is really important because you saw how quickly Light and ZDZ could just deny that from being put in. I feel like, ZDZ has to itemize against the Renekton. There's no real point doing anything else. He's like, I mean, I wonder what his last item is going to be, because you could say Bloodthirster. I think that might be okay. I think
PF sword, so you're expecting that or a GA, I guess.
Yeah, GA. I don't think that saves you in the situations where you'd want it to is the problem, because you die and then just people are stood on your corpse and then they just kind of kill you, and then you die again. It's not the best thing ever. It's the worst kind of Groundhog Day. Lights on the other side, Bloodthirster, very important for him. Mantra Key starting to take over just a little bit. How much poke can we get out as well? Feels like Xiaohu is the only poke champion really in this game. Nidalee, half of a poke champion because hitting the space is so difficult. There goes Crying!
What's the flash out of Xiaohu again? Klein's done that a lot, but honestly it feels like Xiaohu's flash being down is pretty much the only prize he's gotten with the charms in a little while outside of a good charm under the tower into Xiaohao. That's the ultimate from Soul. Still got it going down. Chris down very low. So teleport in now, coming flying through. Soul secured. That will mean there's no real fight. The Steadfast Presence comes on through. One still looking to get to the backline, but Victor's Gaming do not find what they came for. Burn the teleport, and Weibo this time are quick enough to kill the dragon.
So ZDZ, very, very quick movement speed. Could have moved towards that bot lane as well. But he's just worried about rotations coming over from the solo lanes of IG. He spots them out now. ZDZ playing with a lot more respect than he did a little earlier into the game, which saw him into a kind of 1 and 4 kind of point. Problem is, what's going to happen now in terms of the information on this Baron? You need to have some advanced warning. Xiaohao's not there. You're not going to have Quinn there in time either. She's staying in bot side. IG, they're looking to trade the soul a little earlier and potentially go towards a Baron.
This will be a 4v4 because one once again doesn't have the teleport, so you've got 2 separate fights on 2 separate fronts. Xiaohao hit with the charm, now. Taking down about half HP, does have a honey fruit there if you can get towards it, but I think it might be a bit of a bait. You can see Leon is just waiting for someone to overcheck this, and it means that with the Baron not really taken, ZDZ's still alone in that bot lane.
Okay, so, and that's the big thing. We need to really see what's happening in this bot lane. What's happening with the tower? It's being chunked down just a little bit. Remember, Energize does affect it. You see that one's so difficult for him to play against the late game. Quinn, what do you do about this? You're just resetting through carrier marks. You're autoing for one. You get the E and the Q to keep applying that again and again. Huge amounts of damage now too. Worth noting that your crit chance increases the, or decreases the cooldown on that Harrier too. So once you're at this point in the game, feels like there is no escape. Even when you got towards the, you've got her basic cooldowns out. The Harrier comes back up so quickly. You just get run down.
Interesting, they're actually drawing up their solo laners here to make sure it's not going to be a 1v1 versus the Queen, because I don't think either of them realistically win that, especially with the cleanse up. You're not going to get a full charm trade very easily, because it'll just press that cleanse summon spell and you're getting run down.
That's a fair point, actually. Cleanse typically very good for AD carries in regards to kind of like getting out of those burst trades. You haven't got a a flat pan high AP build as well. You've gone for Crypt Bloom, which is good against some of these targets, not necessarily good against the others. You can see the ZZ actually trading well back just there as well. Another impactful thing here too is the Chemtech Dragons themselves give tenacity as a stat. It can even help you out in some of those niche scenarios too. Light taking some damage, but he has Bloodthirsty. He'll up back up off of that wave, and we are once again waiting for Weibo to pull across the map. And here's the replay of what happened in the river. So Charm misses, immediately ults away. That's the correct play from Crown. You cannot afford to get those Infinity Edge crits coming through. GA has been picked up from ZDZ now, so it's not going to be a Bloodthirster, instead saying, I do need that extra life. And now we're in a straight 5v5. I don't think Weibo wants a straight 5v5.
It's a bit tricky, but then again, ZDZ with all this move speed is actually quite difficult to deal with a lot of the skill shots, and this game you've got to be a little aware of things like the Mantra Qs coming flying through. Your vision control is all well and good, but a W from Quinn will reveal where you're standing.
Problem here is that you don't have side lanes pushing for Weibo. They're just having to wait until this Baron is started, which it is now. IG want to force a straight front-to-back 5v5 where the Smolder can burn down targets.
Trying to get that. The initial sneeze goes wide. Smolder's mother comes flying on in, gets a bit of a chunk onto light. Big stun there. One went in, but immediately is forced away with the Keeper's Verdict. Flash down to his name as well. Flash back out from Arn, trying to keep alive. Now he gets to start turning around with the Nidalee, who hits the Javelin toss, gets the initial kill. Into the backline they go to big knocker, but they can't follow up on any kills. Wink, desperately low, does go down as Light picks that one up, and trying to get a reset is Cryin, who is down at about 100 HP.
Wait, ZDZ can just fly after them. Yeah, he's got his
Valor again. Over the wall, he can start looking over, flashes over the wall, Arn's there, being attacked with the Harriers, claims the dragon. It's looking like St. George over here. All of the health bars too low to work with. Invictus Gaming not living up to their namesake. They cannot find victory here. Weibo Gaming win the 5v5.
They win the 5v5, but how quickly can they push the waves? They're looking to push in mid. 40-second death timers. We might have seen the late game Smolder lose in the 5v5, which is so incredible considering what these compositions are meant to do. This isn't meant to be the 5v5 team fighting comp from Weibo. They're meant to be winning through side lanes, but they end up somehow getting towards that backline with the double carries. So easy for them to tear through turrets. I think this will be inhib and out. I don't think they can go further. The game goes on, but Weibo get themselves a crucial victory. When they have the super minions flying in towards this mid lane now, it is so much harder for IG to push up mid lane, go in towards these objectives. IG, I don't think it is nearly as easy for them now to go towards the Baron. Weibo now starting it up. One has teleporting in 15 seconds, but that might be too late.
Down to half HP, Wink is around, Crying's around, Leyen is around, but without a flash, and the Baron's gone. There's double 80 carries, it's 39 minutes into the game. We're nearly at 40 minutes as we just crest it. This game, knife's edge for a little while. It feels like Weibo Gaming might have just done a death blow.
Potentially so. Extra items being picked up from Weibo. We have a GA being picked up from Light. CDZ's is down. Light in that last fight, he actually ended up having a pretty bad flash himself. He flashed forward to try and get some damage down, and I thought he would end up dying for the attempt. Light on the Xayah. It's not been his most comfortable champion. Luckily, there is a second AD carry on the team, though, to make sure that both of them can have a fair crack at these team fights. IG, they do have great wave clear from the Smolder. The thing is, he has to stay in mid lane now to get value out of it.
The Shiv has been sold from Mercurial Scimitar. It was a GA, so now you've gone Merc Scimitar for an additional cleanse option in those side lanes. And now GA was popped in the last fight, and ZDZ needs to be really afraid, throws the W down, but it's a little late, still makes it work, he's just so fast.
But no, the charm hits a minion. Cryan ults forward, and he charms into a minion after choosing the angle, so a massive misplay there, as now IG may be vulnerable in the mid lane, but Smolder's good damage means that they have to back off there too, but Cryan, another misplay from him on the Ahri against the Quinn. It's not the first one. That's a pretty bad one to do in late game, but at least your cooldown reduction is so high that it's not particularly long kind of downtime on that ultimate.
One still here with Cryan. They're having to 1v2 the Quinn. Elder Dragon's alive now, and that might end up being our next restaurant of call. Are the burgers any good there? I suppose we'll find out pretty short order with the way the game's been going. Towards the mid lane we go first for our appetizer. Trying to make sure that that mid lane control is on the side of one side of ZDZ. Does pop the Mercurial Scimitar. That cleanse out for now.
The thing is that the cleanse cool, that the actual summoner cleanse is going to be up fairly soon as well, so it's not going to be down off the table for that long. You pointed that one out. Of course, the crit chance as well, very synergistic with the build he has. Light eating a spear, nasty for him. As he sold his boots, he's moving kind of slowly though. I'm actually trying to, I didn't see the build from him. ZDZ, he's now pushing in all of these lanes, using the rest of that Baron buff to just be a threat across the map. IG, they do not want to give up Elder. They cannot give up Elder.
And one being kind of kept away from the fight by ZDZ makes it another 4v4 they have to manage.
So ZDZ, again, he's just not going towards the Elder. IG are now forced to go towards the Elder. Poppyl does not get rid of the important targets. The Baron's still on.
And the Elder Dragon being taken, that time by Leon. That means Wayne can potentially look to go on in. ZDZ still winning out in the base. Yes, they got the Elder, but what about the fight afterwards? Like just about alive, trying to go forwards is on, and they're going to at least get back to base with the teleport. ZDZ still here, Cryan having to respond, and Light kills at least 2. Becomes a 2-for-1 and a Nexus turret, but Invictus Gaming have Elder Dragon.
They have the Elder, and it's hard fought for. ZDZ cannot end the game because one doesn't go for the 1v1. I think even with Elder he loses, by the way. Even if you get that Elder, you just get shredded out by Quinn's huge damage in late game, but he clears the wave. Which replay are we getting? Getting the one of the actual Elder fight itself. Poppy Ultimate only gets rid of that Alistar. It's not getting rid of the smite, which is so important in this case. When you've got the Xayah Feather pullback, it's very difficult to smite away, but Nidalee is very good with the kind of the Lichbane execute auto from that takedown as well. And that luckily gets something there. The Feathers, though, while they don't secure the Dragon, they do get themselves a couple of champions to go along with it.
Like, so close to burning down twice there. I think an additional proc either time would have seen to the death of the Xayah. Doesn't quite happen, and it ends up being at least something back for Weibo Gaming. And ZDZ, around these objectives, it is becoming more and more damned if you do, damned if you don't. The 5v5s are great for IG, but it's never a 5v5, it's a 4v4 every time.
Folks, Arn is almost at 500 stacks.
Oh,
One
Lord.
more wave, and that'll be it. Just 7 off of that one.
You were right, there are no boots on Light. He's gone for a Phantom Dancer in place of Berserker Greaves.
Funny you mentioned that. When I said it, he did have boots. He doesn't have them now. So I'm glad he tried to come to me. Wasn't actually right.
Okay, that's fair. I appreciate you calling that out. I just saw it like, oh man, you know, my color caster's so smart.
Great. I was like, oh wow.
He's Nostradamus here, reading the future.
That's the one. Time Lord Genja, maybe a bit more typical.
That's not a
for
Randuin's
these.
Corki.
Randuin's Corki, Triforce Cogmore. Those are the days. Better times, folks. Better times before the age of Smolder, before the Empire attacks. IG pushing him with the last of this. Cryan goes forward, but can't quite land the charm again. Another swing and a miss.
Appreciate him looking. It does force Light's ultimate out though, and that's a fairly big prize in and of itself. One as well claims the tier 2, and with the Elder Dragon still just about on. Invictus Gaming is still pretty threatening here. And they go looking Oh, what engage! They managed to go top of the Nidalee. Wink desperately low, goes forward with the headbutt pulverize, will be minced meat for it. Cryan throws out an orb of deception. But I think it might be just an orb of desperation at this point. Look at ZDZ.
When's the next mantra cube? Xiao, who will one-shot.
Could do a lot of damage, ZDZ. Down to the GA. One goes into the backline, beginning to spin around. The culling of the meek begins. ZDZ vaulting away. One low on, nearly out, is taken down. Light gets the kills. Down to the GA is one, and they're overshoved. Elder Dragon be damned.
Elder falls off, and they cannot finish the game. The thing is, the waves are so far back to the other side of the base. It might be a bit of a tense ending to this. They have 40 seconds. There's an inhib open, so ZDZ, what ZDZ should have done is flown ahead of the wave to kill the inhib maybe and get someone else to clear that wave. Instead, I think he just says, right, I need to get this wave clear down as quickly as possible. Weibo, somehow, someway, they get themselves through the late game against the Smolder. 20 seconds left. Wink no ultimate. I think this has got to be it.
Surely, surely, surely none of the wave clear is here. The final Nexus turret is down, and Weibo Gaming against the run of play, against the narrative of the split. Smolder loses, and it's against a Quinn top lane.
A Quinn top lane that loses early game carries the late. Xiaohu carries the late with his mantra Qs as well. As Weibo come off of a victory against JDG where we were wondering how good this team could be again. I don't think this game answers that question. Weibo, as ever. If there is one thing you know about this team, say it with me. They are consistently inconsistent. You didn't say it with me, Sam. I'm upset at you.
Sorry. I was a little bit shocked.
Hello, welcome back. Game 1 done between Weibo and Invictus Gaming. That was
an experience.
That was an experience. I will say, ZDZ, I hated how he played it at laning phase. I had a lot of criticisms, again, as someone who's very familiar with Quinn. I've played hundreds of games of this champion. I didn't like how he played on an individual level. The later the game went, though, the more respectful he was, while still able to get pressure on the map and then then actually be a late game top lane AD carry, really.
It's been a long time, it feels like, since we've seen that kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't side lane pressure point. We've not really had Camille, Fiora, Quinn be